This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and I am with right now the head trainer at Midwest All Pro Wrestling in South Dakota. You might know him as Eugene, you might know him as Nick Dinsmore, and even made a few appearances in WCW prior to all that stuff, which I'll ask him about. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, Hannibal. How are you, my friend? I like your little award you got hanging on the wall behind you. Your YouTube award, man. That's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully I'll get another one of these days.
Awesome.
I like your toys in the background. You got quite a collection, or sorry, action figures. I don't know how you want to...
Hannibal, you know the best part about having your own action figure is you get to play with yourself in public.
And I'm sure the royalties isn't that bad either.
The royalties aren't bad, but I do have some for sale on my website of my wrestling company, MidwestAllPro.com, here in the best little city in America, Sioux Falls.
Yeah, before I get into your career, maybe you want to plug your wrestling company.
Absolutely. I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I run Midwest All Pro Wrestling. We provide live pro wrestling entertainment, as well as I train the art of professional wrestling to aspiring students. The website is MidwestAllPro.com. We're on Facebook, Midwest All Pro. We're on Twitter at Midwest All Pro. We're on the Instagram, Midwest All Pro. And we got our own YouTube channel, Midwest All Pro Wrestling, as well as Eugene has his own Twitter, Eugene Dinsmore, Dinsmore. But what I'm really getting into is my YouTube channel, the Nick Dinsmore YouTube channel, where I've been, I got a series that I'm starting where I'm just telling the stories of my career. So,
well, I'm going to have to check that out. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel. I'll definitely look that up. It looks like you probably record in the background there too. You got some type of wall background there. It looks
this is the studio setting here, kind of the computer in the corner. But if we film anything with a backdrop or interview, we'll do it right there with the our sponsor, Budweiser. You know, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, it's a Budweiser product.
You're lucky to get a beer sponsor, because I had a couple over the years, but it seems like they don't want to sponsor wrestling like they do boxing or MMA overall. So You're blessed with that.
We've been really fortunate in Sioux Falls. The community took to us right away. I was a coach at the Performance Center until 2015. Then my wife and I moved here. She's from here, from Sioux Falls. And there was
you outdid yourself with that wife, by the way. I saw the pictures.
Man, thank you.
South Dakota.
Coachman and Bischoff. I always say I'm the winner of the overachievers.
Oh, for sure. And you're looking in top shape too. So obviously you're getting in the ring when you're training people, I assume.
A little bit here and there. I try not to get in there too much, but I got to get in there just enough.
So how did you meet this Miss South Dakota wife of yours, just before we get into your career here?
So when I started on TV as Eugene, on tour, we came to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. William Regal and I were doing a media day on the Friday before the Saturday Night Live event in Sioux Falls. And we went around, we did all the radio stations, we did newspaper interview, but she had her own country music television show that aired locally here in Sioux Falls. She was on TV all the time. She did commercials. She did some of the news. She was on the weather a little bit. So everybody knew she was. We were on her little show there. We just did hey, this is Eugene and William Regal, and we're going to stay tuned to Hot Country Videos, blah, blah, blah. Well, after that, we kept promoting the show all day long to all the radio stations in Sioux Falls. Eugene and Regal would get on there and they go, okay, you got a big event tonight. And all Eugene wanted to do was talk about Stephanie from Fox. Regal would be, Eugene, we have to concentrate about the show. No. I want her to take me to Chuck E. Cheese. So all day long, I'm hitting every radio station. I'm plugging her. I kept saying, Eugene wants her to take him to Chuck E. Cheese. And the word got back to her and she came to the show that night. And I sprayed on a little Axe body spray, slicked my hair back, and told her my worst jokes, and she laughed, and I said, wow, what a beautiful smile. And ever since then, it was on.
Well, congratulations on that. You've actually been wrestling for many years, over 20 years. I guess you started in 1996 in USWA.
Well,
according to the internet?
I started in Louisville at Ohio Valley Wrestling. Before it was Ohio Valley Wrestling, it was just the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling. It was in Jeffersonville, Indiana. I started there in 1996. I wrestled for USWA. I wrestled for Music City Wrestling. I wrestled a little bit for WCW, like you mentioned. And then Ohio Valley Wrestling partnered with WWE to train their talent late 98, early 99-ish. And I was hired developmental contract in 1999.
Now, when you worked for USWA, was it still Jerry Jarrett running it?
Yes, it was Jerry the King Lawler and Jerry Jarrett were the head of the USWA, and I was there for maybe the last 2 or 3 months that they were in business, and the business was going down. They'd already lost Evansville. They quit running the Coliseum there in Memphis, and we're running the big one, Flea Market, and it was just I was excited to be there, and it was a show that came on every Saturday. Everybody, all my friends watched, USWA. Channel 3 wrestling, as we call it, USWA, but they would also come to the Gardens every week. They had a weekly show at the Gardens, and I go down there and see Lawler and see Jimmy Hart, Corey Macklin. Exciting.
How was Jerry Jarrett for your brief experience with him?
It was great. I didn't talk to him much. I just saw him a couple times in passings at the TV. And you know how it is when you're that young and you're green, you just stay back and keep quiet and keep your eyes open and your mouth shut. And, I shook his hand. And
who hooked you up with the WCW matches?
So I wrestled on the very first Brian Pillman Memorial Show. It was the first match against Trailer Park Trash in Ohio. Terry Taylor was with WCW at the time, and he was there to represent WCW. I met him at the Brian Pillman show, and then he started calling me in to do some shots for WCW late 98, a couple in 99. And then he was released from WCW. He was immediately picked up by WWE. And at the end of 99, he got me developmental deal for WWE.
I know you were just going in to do probably enhancement matches, but did you get a sense of what the WCW locker room was like in those days?
It was huge, honestly, because I did 2 Nitros, 2 or 3 Thunders, and maybe 6 or 8 Saturday nights. And some of the bigger buildings, I remember I walked into a locker room one time and I looked up and it was like all the top guys were in there. I said, okay, this is the wrong locker room. But I mean, there was 2 separate locker rooms, but the fact is some of those WCW Saturday night TV tapings, they call in 100, 120 guys, and they might use 30 or 40. So everybody'd show up at noon, see if you're on the sheet. If you're not, they would leave. I mean, literally, they were flying in 100, 120 wrestlers, to Macon, Georgia, or Greenville, South Carolina, just somewhere, and they ended up not using a lot of them. When I saw that many guys there, it really puzzled me.
How was the pay in those days for working for WCW?
Oh, it was great, man. I was 21, 22 years old, had few responsibilities, and I was actually getting paid to wrestle, so I was loving it.
Was Jim Cornette around Ohio Valley Wrestling in the early days?
So, like I said, I started in 96. Jimmy came in, I want to say 98. It might have been late 97, mid 98, somewhere right when Ohio Valley Wrestling got the developmental contract.
And I've heard him put you over countless times. He was one of your biggest supporters. Did you get along with him right away from the start?
Well, he fired me twice. He threatened to shoot me once, but I love Jimmy. He's awesome. he really took, I was a good baby face, but he's the one that just progressed my character, evolved the Mr. Wrestling character, got me over in Louisville and put me in matches and just wrote, the storylines that just complimented me tremendously. He was phenomenal.
Was it Danny Davis himself training you, or was Rip Rogers also around in those days?
So when I first started, Danny was training in class. And then at a certain point, Rip started doing it. Like when the developmental came along, Rip was doing the training. Danny probably trained for the first 2 years. And then once we started doing TV, his focus went to producing and editing the TV. For some of the developmental classes, myself and Rob Conway would be the ones training the class. And then after a certain period of time, they got Rip hired, so he got in.
How did you get along with Rip?
Oh, I love the Hustler. Absolutely love the Hustler. I try to text him every week. I mean, I saw him okay, so how do I want to say this? When I first started wrestling, I was 19. He was a 42-year-old bodybuilding man, fresh off WCW, and probably the most eccentric or weird or craziest guy that I've ever met in my life. The stories, the stuff that he did, and everything in the ring looked believable. When I first started at OVW, I would do security first. And I'd watch and I'm like, oh my God, he looks like he's killing people. And then I got in there with him, and Rip was the one that really let me be able to like relax in the ring and hear the crowd. He's the one that taught me how to work in the ring. He's the one that taught me how to be the showman, when to do this, when to pick it up, when to bring it down. But above that, he's the one who gave me the idea for the Eugene character.
So before Eugene, when you were making a name for yourself in Ohio Valley Wrestling, I believe you were the champion. You were a basic technical wrestler, right? Mr. Wrestling type characters, you said. Was that your idea, or was that his idea? They wanted to keep you like a Luthez-ish type character?
That was Jimmy's writing, because that was my strength. You know, I was Mr. Wrestling, 10-time OVW heavyweight champion, but nobody's counting. He wanted to accentuate my strength, so he made me Mr. Wrestling, and it suited me for a long time.
And Rob Conway, you mentioned that you were doing the development class training with him. Are you guys still friends to this day?
Absolutely, absolutely. I probably had more matches with him or against him, and it's probably one of my very best opponents. I mean, he and I were always on the same wavelength. You know, we'd be like, we knew exactly what the next one was thinking, and just like it was just poetry.
He was very underrated, in my opinion. What's he up to these days?
I believe he's still doing some wrestling, but he's gotten into bodybuilding. I believe he's got his pro bodybuilding card. He does the, I don't know which one it is. They get all oiled up, and he's looking good, man. He's ripped. He's always ripped, always lean. He's a body guy.
So at what point did you actually go from being just a trainee to a WWE development wrestler? Was that right when they got their development deal at OVW?
Yeah. Rico Constantino was the first guy, I think, that came to OVW. He was the first talent. And I'm thinking that happened, it might have been late 98, but it might have been mid-98. Then I was hired in December of 1999 under a developmental contract. And I was making a fraction of what, you know, like John Cena was there, Batista was there, Brock Lesnar was there, Shelton Benjamin, Victoria. But, man, I was just happy to be on board, you know. I was just a kid that wanted to try wrestling, and I happened to go to the pro wrestling school that got a developmental deal with WWE, and I was put in a really great spot, and I had some really great people write for me and really great people teach me, and it was just like I was fortunate, but it was still difficult.
How was your experiences with Lesnar? I understand he kept to himself overall.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, he was, you know, he just once you got to know him, he'd cut up and laugh, and he's a really cool guy. So he's from a town about an hour and a half from where we are, about 2 hours from Sioux Falls. And my wife and I went back to Louisville, and Danny had Brock Drew autograph signing one day. So he met my wife, and all of a sudden they both found out they're from the Midwest, and all these little differences between the South and the Midwest, and they really hit it off. So when I saw him at WrestleMania 30 at New Orleans, that's the first thing he says, "Are you still dating a girl from South Dakota?" I'm like, "Yeah." And every now and then I'll hear rumors in town. Everybody will be texting, "Hey, Brock Lesnar's in town. He'll eat at Denny's or something because he's got family from here." So I like Brock. Brock's a cool dude.
Were you around in OVW during that infamous fight Batista had with Robbie Dix?
I was around, but I don't remember. I didn't see it. I don't remember if I was there that day, but I remember the time. What was going on.
That guy, I know he ended up committing suicide, but I understand he was like an amazing athlete. Do you have any recollections of that guy, Robbie Dix?
Absolutely, absolutely. Robbie wrestled in college, I believe, for Fresno State. He had like a 42 or 43-inch vertical jump. I mean, he literally just was one of the best athletes that I've ever seen. And he had a character. I mean, it was part him, but he could be a reserved, really nice guy. But you get all those WWE talent, you know, superstar talent, world-class athletes, all working hard and busting their ass, you know, trying to train. I wouldn't necessarily say, I mean, it was a fight, but it was just, you know, testosterone gets brewing in the room, and, you know, they just had a little spat.
Right. And Batista seems like a nice guy. I'm guessing that you probably knew him. You were around when he started.
Yeah, I worked with him a lot. I remember he was Leviathan, the demon of the deep, the guardian of the gates of hell, the keeper of lost souls. And Cornette did a thing with him where they filmed and they did it in black and white. And Cornette's wife, Stacy, who's Sin, conjures Batista, Leviathan, out of the Ohio River. So it's like pitch black water with the black and white, and he comes up out of the water, and they're playing Godsmack, I think it was, and opens his eyes. It was a really cool segment how they came up with Leviathan. And I wrestled him a lot, and he was supposed to be a heel, but all the fans loved him because he was huge, he was ripped, and he was explosive. So I would start getting heat on him, and I'd put him in a hold so the people start cheering for him, and he'd be all, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're making me a babyface." Yeah, that's right.
And Randy Orton was around. I'm sure you've known him for many years too.
Absolutely. I'm very good friends with Randy. My wife and I actually were the only wrestlers other than his father at his first wedding.
Wow. Yeah, he's one of the best out there today still. And of course, John Cena, I guess you were there from his start in Ohio Valley Wrestling. Could you see that he was going to be the star that he became at that time?
I don't know if I foresaw that he was going to be as big a star as he is, but I knew that he was much more talented than the entire group. We used to work on promos. We'd have a promo day. Somebody would be in the ring with the microphone. I'm gonna ask you questions, and most of the time, guys would try to put each other on the spot. Okay, you've got a match tonight with the Pillsbury Doughboy. Go, you know, and you got to then cut a promo. They threw one on him one day where they gave him 4 opponents in a Mario Kart race, something, but all these extravagant, and he cut 4 different promos on each guy and made it funny and angry. And he was like, I mean, just so tremendously talented.
Now, for the Eugene character, you mentioned Rip Rogers helped develop it. Is this something that you started in Ohio Valley Wrestling, or did they come up with this at the office, like the idea of it, and you developed it from there?
No, Rip came to me and he's like, Rip's son has autism. So he's like, what about a wrestler that isn't very social, maybe can't tie his shoes, isn't very good in conversations, but the minute he gets in the ring, he can do stuff perfectly. At the bell rings, he can do all the moves flawlessly. You know, he watched wrestling his whole life. He's an encyclopedia of wrestling, trivia, moves, everything. Because being Mr. Wrestling, I could do 1,000 moves in an hour of Broadway. Don't break a sweat, no sweat professional. But Rip's son has autism, so he gave me this idea for this character. So I pitched the character to when the agents would come down. You know, guys like Fit, Steamboat, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, and they were all like, "Man, I think wrestling's kind of gone away from that kind of stuff. I don't think we would do that." Okay, so waited a couple months. The writers came down. What about this character? No, WWE doesn't do that anymore. We don't do that kind of stuff. Okay. So my time in developmental, 5 years, I would see a lot of guys complain, and then they would get called up. And I tell guys today, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So I told my friend Doug Basham, I said, Doug, I think I'm going to quit and try to go to Japan, which I had no intention of doing that. Doug told Dean Malenko, Dean told Johnny Ace. All of a sudden, I'm sitting in a meeting with Vince McMahon. Vince goes, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. And that's when I just threw out this character, this idea. Oh, I had an idea about a character that, kind of like Rain Man. He's not very social. He can't put a square peg in a square hole, but when he gets in the ring, he's like idiot savant. All right, and Stephanie was in the room. Stephanie McMahon, she was like, we could do some ideas, and they're pitching some ideas. Stone Cold Steve Austin walks in the room. This was February of 2004. Austin walks in the room. Vince goes, Steve, have you ever seen this kid wrestle? No, I'm sorry, I haven't. And I knew that Danny Davis and Steve Austin had a connection when they were in Dallas territory. And when they were doing the USWA Dallas exchange, Danny became pretty good friends with him, I suppose. And so I said, Nightmare Danny Davis trained me. And so Austin goes, well, then you're probably one of the best. And it was like that vote of confidence. All of a sudden Vince goes, all right, let's start on Monday. But
wow.
now they would, you know, like now current developmental, that they would do a big character analysis and trials and do all this different stuff. I had no idea who the character was. It was just an idea. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
And I'm actually friends with one of Steve Austin's daughters, and she told me you were actually one of her favorite characters.
That's cool. That's cool.
So they brought you in with Eric Bischoff. Were you surprised at that?
I really didn't know what to think. You know what I mean? I mean, the fact of the matter was, and I tell guys this today, you have to have a writer that can write for you. You have to have a writer somebody that wants to give you, you know, something, help you up. You get the best talent in the world, but if nobody can write for you, if nobody wants to write for you, it's very difficult. Brian Gerwitz, who also wrote a lot of the Rock stuff, could write for Eugene. The movie that Big Show was in, what was it called?
I don't remember. He's been in a bunch by now.
No, the one where he was like an idiot. Knucklehead.
Knucklehead. Yeah. It was baseball or something, right?
That movie was written for Eugene.
Okay. Wow.
And then they had Big Show do it. So
what happened? Why didn't they give it to you?
So what?
What happened that they switched it to Big Show?
I got released.
Oh, okay. So what was Bischoff like to work with? Because we've heard all different sides of him, but I guess he would have just been talent at that point. So you guys would have been on the
work with. He was super cool. I mean, he was very helpful. I had heard all the mean, nasty rumors. And what was really weird is, like, as I was progressing in my angle with him, there were some people, I'm going to say some people that were encouraging me to fucking knock the shit out of him. You know, like a lot of people, you need to give him a little bit more. And I was like, I felt so weird because the person telling me I respected, but it's like, I've got no issue with Eric. And like, you know, it's whatever your issue is, you know, it was weird. I was put in a weird, you know, weird place there. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't end up giving him any potatoes, so.
Were you surprised that they brought him in as a writer and only gave him a 3-month chance, basically, last year?
Not really. I mean, nothing against him. That's the way WWE does sometimes. You know, they get this, we're going to go in this direction, and all of a sudden it's like, no, don't like it. Change direction. You know, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. On one of my first shows here in Sioux Falls, one of our first big shows, I was on Eric's, not the podcast he does now, but he did the one before. And live on the podcast, I say, you know, dude, I'd love to have you here and come to Midwest All Pro. And he goes, I'll come for free. Just make a donation to charity. So on our MAP Mania event in 2016, we do 600 people. Eric Bischoff was there, and he was in a game of musical chairs with Eugene and my wife.
Wow, that's pretty good. 600 fans is also excellent for an independent federation.
Yeah, Sioux Falls only has 180,000 people in the city. There's 250,000 people in the metropolitan area. So, I mean, I say it's the best little city in America. That's one of their mottos, but it is. It's a small town, but it's a really good small town. Until recently, 2% unemployment rate. So everybody's got a job. Everybody's got money. I run on Sunday afternoons because Saturday nights are packed. There's stuff always going on here. Concerts, rodeo, clowns are in town, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, I mean, it's a really nice town.
Does WWE still come there, or are you pretty much the only wrestling game in town?
Sioux Falls just built, about 3-4 years ago, just built this new big, huge arena. So they've had Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. My wife actually was on SmackDown the first time they had SmackDown Live here. Dolph Ziggler was going to portray a Macho Man gimmick for like one segment, and she came out as Elizabeth.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look that one up. Now, they paired you with Steve Regal, one of the legends in the business. What's he like to work with, and also outside the ring?
So I looked up to William Regal a lot, trained him because he was a wrestler, and because him and Rip were good friends. They were lived together, I believe, in Germany back in the day, back in the trailer days or whatever they had there. But I loved it because I was fortunate because I looked up to him. He's a hero. But then to really get to ride with him and get to meet him, and hang out with him, he's so funny. I mean, it was nonstop laughs. Literally, we get in the car in the morning, and the first thing he would do is play jump around. by House of Pain or whatever it is, jump around, like blasting it, jump around. Our first carload was Regal, myself, and Tajiri. And Tajiri didn't talk at all. He did talk, but he talked seldom, you know. And Regal's messing with him one day. We were at a Cracker Barrel, I think, and he buys a harmonica. So the whole trip, he's just tooting the harmonica just to see if he can get Tajiri to crack. Tajiri didn't crack at all, but the whole time, harmonica, set it down for a couple minutes, harmonica. Next morning, we get in the car. Tajiri's in there. Regal isn't there yet. Tajiri reaches up, grabs the harmonica, goes, and sets it back.
And you, of course, won the World Tag Team titles with Regal. Is that one of the highlights of your career?
Absolutely, absolutely. Indianapolis, Indiana. My mother was in the crowd, won the tag team titles.
What incarnation of La Resistance was that? Was that the Conway incarnation, or was that Renee Dupree still?
No, that was Rob and Sylvan.
We've had Renee on in our company here and in various interviews. How did you get along with Renee?
I loved Renee. I got along with him real well. I mean, he came, whatever, how old was he when he came to Louisville? He was 18 when he came to Louisville, yeah. 18 or 19 years old. Yeah, and I was like, again, when those guys were coming, I was kind of like a player coach. So we had a relationship as you know, locker room mates, you know, as friends, but I was also kind of a person giving direction. And then we would travel a lot when we first started on WWE because the office would give you the cars for everybody to pile in. So I got to work with Renee a lot. I like him.
Do you think in his case, probably if they signed him later, it would have worked more to his advantage because he was so young at the time?
I think he can still go now, can't he? I mean, he's a guy that could be looked into. Renee Dupree and Eugene could sell out any building in America.
He's actually over in Japan wrestling for Noah right now, so... Yeah, I'd like to actually see Renee and maybe Nick Dinsmore, though, with the style Renee's doing these days. Now, you also had some skits with The Rock, and you worked with him a little bit. What was that like?
Oh, that was incredible. I remember we got to the building in San Diego on that Monday morning, and Sylvain Grenier, was friends with Pat Patterson, so he would get like, you know, kind of what was going on. Sly comes around to me, he goes, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe, you know, they got this great skit worked out for you, but they're not sure if they can get the person that they want to get. So it's either going to be The Rock or it's going to be Rhino." I love Rhino, but I'm like, it's kind of getting my hopes up, you know? So all day long, they're like, "We don't know if he's going to make it because he's in LA shooting a movie, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, it's not going to happen. You know, there's no way. That's no way. And then he showed up, man. And we went through our lines like all day long. I think I was on 6 segments on that Raw. A couple backstage in the ring with The Rock, and I had one line in the whole damn thing. You know, what did they say? It doesn't matter what your name is or whatever I said. And he working on it, I missed it. Working on it, I missed it. Working on it in the ring, live on TV. The Rock's got the people in the palm of his hand. It was electric. I can't describe to you the feeling just being like in the middle of the ring, but he's just got those people right there, and he says something, and they pop, and he's just doing his little jive, walking past me. He goes, "Your line's next," and he hits it and just fed it right to me. I mean, it was like such a professional, like carried me. I had one line, and I couldn't even remember.
Wow. Would you consider him one of the greatest of all time for sure?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, South Dakota is the Mount Rushmore state, so we often ask people, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling? And The Rock definitely would be on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
And of course, you feuded with Triple H. That's one of the things you're very well known for. What was he like to work with?
Super easy. Reminded me of wrestling like Rip Rogers. Like the pace was perfect, so that people could, you know, follow it. Wasn't too slow, wasn't too fast. No wasted movements. You know, and it was just easy to paint that underdog picture of me selling and getting angry and making a big comeback. And he was. You know, he's called the game, and he's called, you know, a general in the ring for a reason. He's that good.
Now, you had an injury at New Year's Revolution 2005 that was pretty serious. Could you tell us how that happened and how you overcame it?
I tore my patella tendon. So Christian was coming off the top rope with the axe handle, and I was going to give him the gut punch. And I was like rotating, spinning kind of on my left foot, I think, when he hit the mat. And it was just one of those freak things where, like, I think the mat went down, and when it was coming back up, it like hit my feet from underneath and just kind of and it was just, it was like this pain, and I couldn't. And then I tried to throw a drop kick, and it was just like, I don't know if I partially tore it and then completely tore it, but regardless, it just blew out, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand. You know, I've torn my ACL before, and with the ACL, it might go out on you, but you can walk. Torn patella tendon, it's just like nothing there. I mean, there's no way to support yourself. And it was painful. I was in Puerto Rico. Dr. Rios was the doctor at the time with WWE, if you remember Dr. Rios. And he's like, well, do you want to go to the hospital tonight, or do you want to wait? And we're going to fly back tonight and then go tomorrow in Florida. I'm like, man, I don't want to see a Puerto Rican doctor. Don't make me see a Puerto Rican doctor, not knowing that Dr. Rios was a Puerto Rican doctor. But it was I went to the MRI the next day in Florida. They said, yep, you're going to need surgery. The day after that, I went and filmed the Forrest Gump ad for WrestleMania with a torn patella tendon. I was supposed to pick the girl up and give her an airplane spin, but I couldn't stand. I was sitting on a park bench. It was January, but it was Florida, so it was warm. And I sat there for 6 hours and just did those lines and ate chocolate. 6 hours eating chocolate and saying the lines. And Regal comes in, about 2 minutes, he says one line, and then he was done. I was there all day just sweating.
So that kept you out for how many months?
6 months. I probably should have been out 9 or 10 because it's a really severe surgery. If you watch the matches when I came back, they put me in an angle with Kurt Angle. Kurt asked to be in an angle with me. They said, Kurt, we want to get you some good heat going into Cena. He goes, well, give me Eugene then. So he wanted to work with me. Kurt had a lot of comedy that he wanted to do, but Vince like, no, that's when he put the mouthpiece in. You know, no, you're going to be attacked. You're going to be a killer. But if you watch some of the early matches, I couldn't pivot. I couldn't run. My knee was so weak, and he was just throwing me around like a rag doll, which was fine. But I couldn't keep up with him like I would have been able to before the injury.
And you probably don't remember this, but when they sent you to Puerto Rico for a week to work for IWA, I was there for that, and it seemed unusual because they only did that with you. What was the whole deal with that? I
don't know. There's so many to go. They wanted me to knock off a little bit of ring rust, and I think maybe Bushwhacker Luke, called in a favor to get somebody. I'm not sure. I was happy to go. I was excited to go.
I remember that you were good buddies with Flash Flanagan, who was out there at that time. Do you guys still keep in touch?
Actually, we don't really keep in touch often, but he texted me this morning.
Okay.
He's a good dude. Flash and I got hired by WWE at the exact same time. We both got hired in December of '99. His road didn't progress that way, but he was one of the OVW originals, one of the gang, one of the clique that started, there at OVW. Doug Basham, Danny Basham, Rob Conway. Flash was always one, too. Trailer Park Trash and Jason Lee were a couple of other guys that, good dudes, but, their career didn't make it all the way to WWE.
Now, you also did some things with Hulk Hogan, one of the all-time greats. What was he like?
What you gonna do, brother? I don't know. They called and told me I was going to do that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Really, everything that you could ever want to be, at least for me as a wrestling fan. Eugene got a t-shirt. I got the action figure. I got to be in the ring with The Rock. I pinned Vince McMahon. I got a WrestleMania moment with Hulk Hogan. It was unbelievable. I mean, really, it was so cool.
Was his segment practice much, or was he the type that just wanted to go out there and do it?
I don't recall. I think they probably walked through it just so the cameraman can kind of see the angles and stuff like that and blah, 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 whatever. But I had the easy part. I just got beat up and sold.
What do you think about him saying he wants to come back for one last match against Vince McMahon in the future? Obviously, this year's WrestleMania got all screwed up, but do you think it could actually happen in the future?
WWE can do anything and make us all believe it. They took the mask off of Kane and it made sense. They put it back on and it made sense. They have the ability to do anything that they want to do. It's just a matter of if they want to do it or not. And
you teamed with Jim Duggan quite a bit. How was he to work with? We've used him a lot out here for our company.
Love Hacksaw. Hacksaw is awesome. Always in a good mood. Always having fun. Always laughing. And any building he went to, he was always over. for 25, 30 years, no matter where it is, he's over. We used him here at Midwest All-Pro also February last year, I believe. Sold out the building. Great guy.
Wow. And you even teamed with Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. I think it was on a Taboo Tuesday, another one of the greats. What was he like?
Well, I mean, that whole Taboo Tuesday was cool because it was Kamala, it was Snuka, and who's the third one? Who's the third one that they have for me?
I might Kamala, even Snuka. Have it here.
I can't remember. It was Hacksaw, I think. Yeah, it was Hacksaw. Kamala, Snuka, and Hacksaw. And just to be in the ring with those legends. I mean, Umaga destroyed us all, but it was just really cool. Snuka was awesome.
And I guess I think you've clearly overcome all this now, but I guess you ran into some personal issues that unfortunately caused your release the first time with WWE.
Yeah, you know. I got non-compliant at the wrong time, and it was it was what it was.
I guess they only started to get really strict with that after Eddie Guerrero passed away, like more strict with those situations with wrestlers. Did you ever work Eddie Guerrero over the years?
I didn't wrestle him. He was on SmackDown. I was on Raw, so I met him, in passing, but I never got a chance to wrestle with him. But everybody, all the younger guys always remarked like how good he was and how much they learned and how easy it was and just, one of the greats.
And when they brought you back, you returned during the Royal Rumble and you were eliminated by Chris Benoit. What was that whole experience like?
I mean, that was pretty cool. That was my only Royal Rumble, and I just remember, the feeling like when guys hit the ring. I remember when RVD hit the ring and people were just going crazy and Shawn Michaels hits the ring, bang, bang, bang. I was just trying to remember my spot, man. It was cool.
Did you ever have any singles matches against Benoit over the years?
So Nick Dinsmore wrestled Chris Benoit in Louisville, and that was the match that got me over in Louisville because he just jumped from WCW to WWE fairly recent after that. He was a title holder. I can't remember if he was a world title or if he was a U.S. title, intercontinental title or something. Maybe a world champion, but I went toe to toe with him, and I think the finish was a DQ or something. I wish we could have just done a draw or something, but to go 50-50 and have him come at me as hard as I was going at him, that was a match that people remember in Louisville, as the match that made me as a star in Louisville.
Did you get along with him outside of the ring?
Absolutely, yeah. He knew that we were all at OVW. We were all young and hungry and wanted to get up there, and he would come down to HWA and to OVW and train with us a little bit and work out and do some matches and really lend his credibility. And then once we got up on the road, my angle with Triple H, Benoit was for most of that as well.
How was his chop? Was it pretty hard compared to most people's? Because he looked like he had pretty good chops.
They would sting. They would sting a little bit.
And you, of course, did some stuff with Vince McMahon on TV too. What was it like working with him?
I was always nervous, just his name was Vince McMahon, but just he was easy to work with. Like the Mr. McMahon character, that's evil asshole. He's not really like that. I mean, I can see he could be because that looks Mr. McMahon comes so easy for him, but I mean he would just talk to you nice and easy. Hey, let's try this, and he coached me through when Benoit and Triple H did the Iron Man match on Raw. I came in at the end. I was on the commentator's table yelling at Triple H, and Vince worked with me for a good 20 minutes on the facial that he wanted, and me at the end, and just it was really cool. He just took that time to tell me exactly what he wanted and made sure I had it.
Another guy you worked with was the great Khali, who I understand could be painful to work with sometimes. How was your experience with him?
I liked Khali. Khali's really cool, but he was strong, and he used to do that choke throw down finish.
Yeah.
And man, his hands were so big, and you'd be up so high, and it was just a horrible bump to take. And I'd ask the agents, please, can we just do the thing where he squishes somebody's head? oh, that won't get over. He's not going to do that. Nobody's going to believe that. And he kept hurting people with that move. I don't think he did it intentionally, but it was rough to take. And my hands would go numb and hit my head. Carlito said the same thing. All the guys that were taking the big bump from him, boom, boom, boom. And then when Khali started wrestling the top guys, he started doing this one.
I do believe that Khali actually killed someone in his younger days. It was an accident, but it was from training, like doing a move like that. So
those rumors are out there. Those rumors are out there.
Now, you also feuded with Mark Henry a little bit, or worked with him anyways. That's another big, huge guy. How was he to work with?
So when WWE hired Mark, at a certain point, I think, and they would do this with some guys, like they either want you to get better or they're trying to edge these guys out to quit, basically, I think. And they sent Mark to Louisville to train with us. And it took a little bit, but once Mark started working with us, that's where the light bulb came on for him. When I was a coach at the Performance Center, he was there one day and he was telling the whole class there, it was working with Nick was the reason that the light bulb came on, because he'd done the matches when he first came out with the red, white, and blue outfit, and Mark Henry out here, big man from Silsbee, Texas. But he didn't know what it was. It was just something working in Louisville and just the southern crowds, and just he learned the craft there and he got over. So
now, I never heard any stories of you getting bullied, but I heard like your generation, a lot of the guys got bullied by some of the veterans. Did you ever notice that? But I never heard any stories of anything happening to you, but you may have seen it happening.
Yeah, I was never bullied, but I saw some things that I thought were a little rough. Matt Stryker would get picked on a lot, and I don't know why. I didn't dislike the guy. He was actually kind of funny. He was put in a spot, anybody would take him in the spot, that he was given. I think people were upset because, or maybe one person was upset because he didn't pay his dues, or he didn't, spend any time developmental before they put him on TV. But that's not his fault, So it didn't happen often. Honestly, it wasn't like a culture of I'm so scared to go in the locker room. It was just a handful of times, somebody could make a remark that just make you feel shitty or whatever,
Now, you've said you've had your wife you've had for a while, but people on this channel always like hearing stories about groupie situations. Is there anything you could tell us either that you've witnessed or been involved with over the years with the groupies in professional wrestling?
I played the Fifth Amendment. I can't say anything that might incriminate myself.
Well, maybe you could just answer yes or no. You were in the Memphis territory for a bit. Did you ever notice anything like, was that still around in those days? Maybe not with you, but with other people?
In the Memphis territory, yeah. I mean, honestly, even like in WWE, it was for some guys. Eugene was a kid's character, so I was like, I wasn't the sexy boy or the body guy or anything like that. But there were girls that would come to the hotels or follow us town to town. But USWA was a lot more, because the girls would live in that town and they'd meet the guys. I heard more stories about what used to happen than I really saw, but I did see, every time we'd have a show, they had the airbrush T-shirts, wherever the wrestler of the month was. They don't have the T-shirts on. Yay, go Damage, go Conway.
Now, after you were released by WWE, you wrestled for Juggalo Championship Wrestling. People either seem to love wrestling for those guys or hate it. What was your experience like?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. The Insane Clown Posse has the Gathering of the Juggalos, and that's where we would have the shows either at midnight or 4 a.m. And wrestling had its own stage there, and they put a lot of heart into it. They had one gathering, I can't remember, it was 2011, 2012, where they did internet TV for maybe 6-7 weeks, every other week out of Detroit. So we were going up to Detroit doing the TV. Eugene turned heel on Zach Gowen. We had this big angle where I was going to beat up Zach Gowen, but Eugene being the heel got beat, but it was a really cool time because one of the shows there, they had like 60 WWE former stars in a Royal Rumble. Like I met so many guys. I met Austin Idol. You know, I met so many. I can't think now. Matt Bourne was there. I mean, like guys that I'd grown up watching. Like, wow, this really cool.
And you also had a match for Ring of Honor, maybe more than one match. How was that experience? You were Nick Dinsmore at that time.
Yeah, it was one match. I wrestled Mike Bennett when Ring of Honor did a TV taping in Louisville at the OVW building. I wrestled a match on there. Cornette got me in, but I don't know. As far as it went.
Did you ever have any talks with TNA after you were released?
So I went for a dark match one time, and the match was okay. Like, I felt like being an opening match, I was just going to do a little bit of solid stuff, you know, whatever. I come back to the curtain afterwards, and the person that was the first person I saw, why did you do that? I was like, why do you do your gimmick? I'm like, what's my gimmick? You know, I'm not Eugene. That was it was Nick Dinsmore, but it was like I don't know what they were expecting. And it was but the good thing was a week later I did a stand up for WWE. They flew me up there. And I sat with Triple H, and that was the reason I got hired to be a coach.
And you were a coach, but you also wrestled from time to time, right?
Nope.
Nope.
I just did the coaching when I was at the Performance Center.
How was the Performance Center compared to Ohio Valley Wrestling?
Man, it's like a five-star hotel compared to a fucking... I don't want to run OVW now, but it's a very drastic difference. But that's the way it was supposed to be. When Triple H went from being just an on-air talent to being in the office, when he's making that transition, this is the story I heard. This is the gossip I heard. Vince said, I want you to go around to every department, kind of check it out, see what we do there, and then, give me some feedback. So he went to the marketing and the media department and the cable and the pay-per-view, whatever all the departments are. He came back and goes, it's all great because, as everybody knows, WWE has that excellence across the board whenever they put any product out. And everything on the headquarters is the same way. And H was like, but that developmental is kind of weird. It's just like, it was an independent wrestling company that WWE contracted with to train the stars. And that's when Vince goes, all right, well, that's what you're in charge of. So Triple H went to where the New York Giants train, and their training facility, and kind of got an idea. And he based, a little bit off that, but a little bit off what WWE would need. And they put together a $4.5 million complex down there in Orlando. It's phenomenal. There's no reason that somebody going through there shouldn't come out, just awesome. They've got every resource that you could think of. It's really cool.
What was your typical day like down there when you were coaching, and who were some of the stars that went on to become names that you worked with?
So they would start a wrestling class. I can't remember if the first one started at 8 or 9, and it might have fluctuated. They would start one at 8, and I think you went 3 hours. Another class would start, because you're in the one room with 7 rings. Another class would start at 9. Another one would start at 10. Another one would start at 11, so you'd be done at 11, and they just kind of stagger it that way. I was teaching the guys that were coming in either with no experience or just a new hire, even if they did have experience. My class was to let them get acclimated to Orlando and make sure they got some, apartment, got their cable on, got their cards, tags transferred, and all the shit that you got to do when you move, and then if they don't know how to wrestle, let's slowly teach them how to run the ropes and bump and start to get them in shape. And most guys would be in a class they would switch them up monthly, but it was kind of like about a 3-month for each class. And I taught the beginning class, 8 to 11, maybe it was 9 to 12. Have a little lunch, come back, and I'd write my report in the office there. And then I would sometimes go watch other guys' classes. Like Terry Taylor had a class that was later in the afternoon. Terry's was the last class, the finishing class. All the guys that were on NXT TV were in Terry's class, polishing him, you know, and he really just like, he's brilliant. The second class, Norman Smiley taught. The girls would have class with Sarah Del Rey. For a short period while I was there, Joey Mercury was a coach. Robbie Brookside came in as a coach. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. Billy Gunn was a coach for a short bit while I was there.
How's the pay for a coach compared to a wrestler pay?
I mean, it was good. It was good. Like, I was hired when we were at FCW. And they're like, you know, it's 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. You know, got a lot of extra time, not really a lot going on. But then when we moved that performance center, we moved out of the FCW building, it became a full-time job. You know,
and I guess after that you really enjoyed coaching, so that's when you decided to open up your own school once your run as a coach there finished.
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be a coach and run a wrestling territory and, you know, try to get wrestling TV and whatnot, but it was just a matter of where was I going to do it. We almost stayed down in Clearwater, which is beautiful this time of year, but my wife, she's from Sioux Falls, and like I said, Sioux Falls had no independent wrestling, so we really came up here. We started pro wrestling that had never been done before. Midwest All Pro Wrestling, we're putting wrestling on the map.
Now, I had a fan question that wanted me to ask you your memories of Kenny Bolin.
Kenny Bolin, Kenny Bolin. So, Bolin and Cornette are best friends. Went to Cornette's wedding to Stacy. The wedding invitation was a wrestling card. Jim Cornette's going to go one-on-one and hold matrimony with Sin, you know. At the bottom it said card subject to change. Kenny Bolin was the best man. Big brown body. He had like the big fat neck and standing up there in the middle of the ceremony. All of a sudden Kenny goes, I got to sit down. What? I got to sit down now. He's like sweating. Pull a chair up there. Kenny's ridiculous, but he was like, he was a staple in Louisville, and he was always around. He was one of the boys, but always not a con man, but just a someone who finds the angle, finds his fortune. I don't know. He's one of a kind.
He's had a falling out with Jim Cornette in recent years, hasn't he? Maybe.
I'm not sure. They might have. They won't match it up. I'm not sure though. But Kenny's like, I don't know that Kenny's ever had a real job from what I've heard. Like he would partner with one business and say, hey, let's, you know, we're going to partner with this business over here, and each business would kind of think that he was with the other business, and then he would have them do a little business, but he would take a little bit for himself, and you know, not a scam artist, but fortuitous, I guess.
And another fan wanted me to ask you your thoughts on working with Viscera.
Viscera was awesome. Viscera was a really cool dude. I mean, as big as he was light on his feet. He wouldn't hurt you. You know, he was so strong. Viscera would have this little fan that he would carry everywhere, like a little fan, just fucking. All right, so we're talking about Kenny Bolin. When I got started with Kenny Bolin, it was Thanksgiving night at the Davis Arena in Louisville, Kentucky. Eugene selling 8x10s, Kenny selling 8x10s. Damian Sandow was there. Damian Sandow was managed by King Bolin, his idol Aaron Stevens. I told Idol, Damian Sandow, I said, I'm going to grab the mic, I'm going to cut a promo on Kenny. So I did. I said, Kenny, I bet you that I'm going to sell more 8x10s than you. Okay, so I challenged him to a selling 8x10 contest. I told Aaron Stevens, Damian Sandow, I said, whatever he sells, say that I sold one less, so I lose. Okay, we beat the night, and Kenny sold 26 8x10s. Oh, and Nick only sold 27. Oh, I said, well, go raise his hand. So they take him over, we're on the floor, raise his hands, and Kenny would wear like women's stretch pants, like yoga pants. Yeah. And I pulled his pants down. I pulled his pants down right to his ankles, all the way down. And he was so fat. It took him like 2 minutes to actually bend over and get pull his pants up. And there was some kid sitting in the front row that just took a camera and went, Bolin goes, Nick, God damn it, why'd you do this? Eugene did it, sorry.
Were you around for the time that Cornette snapped on Santino, or were you already called up by then?
No, I wasn't there. I was on the road.
What's the worst temper tantrum you ever saw of Cornette?
So, myself, Conway, Doug Basham, Danny Basham, Flash, were always kind of in the main event of the TV because of the time. We would do TV live to tape. So, it was taped, but there was very little editing, right? So we had to hit our time markers, which is what you need to learn how to do. The first time that Cornette put Cena and Orton on in the main event, they went over by like 2 minutes and 36 seconds. So Cornette comes back, Cena's like coming back, taking his tape off, and Duggan did a good job. Yeah, Randy's all big chest, and Cornette throws something, big crash, God, 2 minutes, 37 seconds. Kicking his chair, goes outside, gets the baseball bat, starts beating windows of this whole rundown building. It was connected to where the training center was. Bang! 2 minutes, 36 seconds, beating the side of his car, just screaming and yelling. Randy was smart enough to leave, but Cena just sat there and was like, oh, God.
Now, of course, this virus going around is affecting all of us. A lot of people are going out of business. A lot of people are losing their jobs. How has this affected you as far as your wrestling school? And you're still an active independent wrestler doing independent booking, so I imagine a lot of your shows have probably been canceled.
Yeah, man, it's devastating. We had a show, we were supposed to have a show this past Sunday. It got canceled. All of our shows in April have been canceled. May will probably be canceled. Plus, I was booked as Eugene on the weekends, and those shows have been canceled as well. So I did start a Patreon. If anybody wants to help support the vision and the goal that I have, what I'm trying to construct here, Nick Dinsmore and Midwest All Pro Wrestling is our Patreon name. For as little as $3 a month, you can get special content that no one else sees.
And how else can they follow you on social media if they want to look you up and follow what you're doing as Eugene and also with your own company? So
Eugene's Twitter is at the letter U-G-E-N-E, Dinsmore, D-I-N-S-M-O-R-E, Eugene Dinsmore. The Midwest All Pro is at Midwest All Pro. The Facebook, the YouTube. Nick Dinsmore's YouTube is the Nick Dinsmore YouTube channel, and that's where I've been doing my story series is what I'm calling it. I've got 4 or 5 episodes now, but I'm just sitting down in front of a camera and just recalling what went on from this period of time to this period of time. I've talked about so far, getting into the business and when I was, before I started wrestling, Monday Night Raw came to Louisville, and the local radio station, WQMF 95.7, was going to have a contest to give away front row tickets to Monday Night Raw. So I've got to win these. And they were going to have a raw egg eating contest, but they thought they might get some people sick, so they had a hard-boiled egg eating contest. So 6 o'clock in the morning, I go down to the Louisville Gardens out front, and I ate 8. I'm going to have to come with a better number. I ate 15 hard-boiled eggs, cracked them and shelled them and ate them in 95.7 seconds. I think I ate 6, honestly. But I won front row tickets to Monday Night Raw, and that's back when they used to do 1 live and 2 taped. So for 3 weeks in a row, I was there in the front row on TV, and just got a picture on there when I was 18. It's pretty cool.
And what advice would you give to people that want to get in WWE or AEW as a professional wrestling trainer who has also been a trainer for WWE?
Burn your boots. Get out of the business. I don't know, man. It's the same thing. That the business is the same thing. The art is the same thing that I was taught, but it's completely different now. But it's updated. It's modernized. I think there's a distinction between professional wrestling and entertainment that's done in a professional wrestling ring. I'm not opposed to either of them, but sometimes guys want to make guys laugh, and if it goes too far, I don't want to be the old grouchy, grizzled old timer in the corner. Got back in my day, kid. We didn't blow people up with a grenade.
Well, what do you think about the Joey Ryans of the world with the magical dicks and so forth?
So if Joey Ryan did a cartwheel while I've got him by the schnabitz, that would flip me over, right? But just the hip twitch is a little difficult to believe, but people know it's wrestling. The only problem is that it's very difficult for people to ever believe him as a real competitor now. He's an entertainer. He's always going to be an entertainer. Very tough, in my opinion, to take somebody that's comedy and go to being serious. And the guys that have always drawn money, that have been on top, that have drawn crowds, have been serious, fighting. Not that it's impossible to do, it's just difficult.
What do you think about Impact making Tessa the champion as a smaller female when they have people like Ken Shamrock and Rob Van Dam on their male roster?
I was very entertained.
Do you have any favorites now that you watch? Probably your friends still, I imagine, that you probably like to watch.
I enjoy watching the NWA on YouTube. And Damian Sandow, Aaron Stevens on there. I don't know if you saw the one where he was they were doing an infomercial for his karate school with the question mark guy. And it was awesome because he was so entertaining, but it wasn't so entertaining that I laughed and liked him. He still was he still had his heat. And then he made the young guy that came out at the end, but then he made the kid in the mask, and he kept his heat the whole time. It was one of the best segments that I think I've seen. I really enjoyed the NWA.
Could you see yourself in a company like that? You're still in top shape, and obviously you can do numerous different types of gimmicks, whatever pretty much. You could be technical, comedy, serious. Company like that might be a decent fit for you.
Well, my lawyer told me that I can neither confirm nor deny that I'm currently in negotiations with all the wrestling companies out there. But yeah, absolutely. I would love to wrestle for NWA, but if I did, it'd have to be a title match, and we'd have to put the belt on me for a short period of time, but no, I'm kidding. It would be a dream to wrestle for the NWA title or for the NWA. I've done a lot of shows for them. I think right at my 07 release, when Dave Marquez was running, we did some TVs in Las Vegas, I remember, when Adam Pearce was a champ. It was a good run. I did a lot of guys. I met La Parca. I met, because they were using a lot of the luchadors coming up in the Texas area. Met Mil Mascaras. It was really cool.
You met Mil Mascaras?
Yep.
What was he like?
He had his mask on. I don't know. He just a dude in a mask.
And what are your thoughts on WrestleMania this weekend? The first WrestleMania, hopefully the only one, with no crowd, unfortunately, due to this thing that's going around.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate, but it's the right thing to do. We all got to buckle down and, just bide our time and try to stay healthy. Hopefully we'll come through this thing. Any
predictions for is Cena going to beat The Fiend, for instance?
I don't know. I would like to think that the All-American babyface overcomes the evil that is The Fiend, but whatever it is, it'll be exciting.
What about Braun Strowman against Goldberg now that Roman Reigns is out?
Is that the match now? When I first started coaching at the Performance Center, Braun Strowman was first in the ring with me. And I work with him a lot. I still text him every now and then. Like, if I see him on Raw, I'll shoot him a message. But he started a little bit later. He had a whole run as a power lifter before he started wrestling. He's not as young as the other guys.
I really appreciate that you took the time to chat with us today. I'm glad to see that you're doing well with your company. You probably don't remember this, but you actually have a hold of victory over me in wrestling. I wrestled you on Heat once. Oh, yeah. And I enjoyed the match.
What was it?
Las Vegas. Back in 2006. I remember you actually gave me a good amount of offense in that match, which, of course, guy at your level at that time didn't have to do, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, but I mean, Eugene was a sympathetic character. People wanted to see Eugene do offense a little bit, but then I had to get beat up to make a comeback, And you were so big and impressive. I mean, you had to get your shit in, right?
So, is there any final thing you want to plug on here, or any final comment for the fans to close this off?
Let's all stay safe in this time of COVID, and let's wash our hands, and let's all make it through to the other side and get our wrestling back on track. Follow Nick Dinsmore on social media. Follow Eugene. Come to my YouTube page. Contribute to my Patreon, and we'll all be living the dream down the road.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.